Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited to be here today. We're just going to hold off for a few minutes to make sure people can join if they're jumping from another session, so just sit tight. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm excited to be here with you all today. I'm gonna just to check, make sure that everyone's in the right place where they wanted to be. All right. Today, we're going to be doing a session on intentional practice used to promote social and emotional learning. My name is Dr. Femi Vance. I am a researcher with the American Institute for Research. I am calling in today from sunny San Diego, where I live, work, and play. I have been with AIR for about 4 years now. I primarily focus on after school and youth development. My areas of expertise are program quality, supporting 21st century programs, evaluation capacity building, as well as equity and access to youth programs. I am excited to be here today. This is my first time being able to work with programs that are in Louisiana, so I'm happy to be here. And let's get started with a little bit of minutia. Part of AIR is that we have to make sure people know that they're going to be recorded. So I'm going to read this to you. The American Institute for Research allows for the recording of audio, visuals, participants, and other information sent, verbalized, or utilized during business-related meetings. By joining a meeting, you automatically consent to such recordings. And any participant who prefers to participate via audio only should disable their video camera so only the audio is captured. Video and or audio recordings of any AIR session shall not be transmitted to an external third party without our permission. Okay, that's our AIR minutia. But I also wanted to let you know that this session is going to be recorded so that you can use it later on to reflect back on what we did in the session. So they're going to be uploaded to LCAL's YouTube site, as well as to the conference website. All right, this is what we have on tap today. Thank you for folks who are already introducing yourselves in the chat box. You'll get an opportunity to do that in just a little bit too. So we're going to start with an opening. And then what we're going to really do is dive deep into some strategies for promoting social and emotional learning. And I have 3 different categories of those strategies. So developmental relationships, 3 signature SEL practices, and developing intentional activities. I live and work with a toddler in the house, so you might see him popping in as a cameo. And then the last one that we'll be touching on is developing intentional activities. We'll have an opportunity to do some Q&A, and then we'll close with some reflection. All right. I had actually planned to be able to have, oh, you can. Okay, if you are seeing this screen, hopefully you are at a computer. If you're at a computer, what I would like you to try to do is at the top of your screen, you should see something that says you are viewing Femi Vance's screen. Hover around that, and I want you to click annotate. And when you click annotate, what's going to pop up is another menu bar, and it's going to say like draw, stamp, spotlight. What I would encourage you to do is click on stamps, and you could pick anyone that's there. I'm going to pick the star, and I want you to annotate on your screen what your energy level is and where you are on pleasantness, so that we can just get a read on the room for how folks are feeling. And I'm going to do that right now so you can see what it'll look like if you're successful in putting your annotation. And if you have trouble with your annotation, just unmute yourself and give me a holler so I can help you. I am feeling easygoing. Oh, yeah. Right? I can't end. I didn't click I didn't click mine very well. There we go. I'm feeling easygoing. So you should see a heart on your screen near easygoing, because that's how I'm feeling today, and that's where I put my annotation. I'm going to pause to see if other folks can go ahead and annotate how they are feeling on the screen. And we'll talk you through it one more time just to make sure folks will be able to do it. So if you scroll up to the top of your screen, you should see something that says you are viewing Femi Vance's screen. And that'll pop up a menu. It'll have annotate with like a little pen or pencil type icon. Click on annotate. And when you click on annotate, it'll come, another little bar should come up maybe below that. And on that bar, you'll see stamp. Click on stamp and select an arrow, a check, an X, a star, what have you, that really represents what you're feeling today. I see a pleasant. You can also draw. I see that pleasant decided, whoever felt pleasant decided to draw. And we have, from what I can tell, we have many more people. Oops, sorry. So many things on my end here. We have many more people than we have dots. So please unmute yourselves. Let me know if you're having trouble annotating, to help me figure out what's going on. Oh, I hope, Miriam, if you were drawing unpleasant, please don't say sorry. You just need to make your mark. However easy, however you can do that, that's fine. And if folks are like, oh my gosh, annotating is just too hard for me, this is our practice. There's one other thing I want us to do that we could be annotating. And if it turns out that it's too difficult, then just write in the box. If you're feeling lively, write lively in the chat. If you're feeling worried, write worried in the chat. If you're feeling discouraged, write discouraged in the chat. All right, now we have people coming in. Okay, great. Juanisha says chilled. Yeah, okay, chilled. She's in the green family, chilled. Who else? Pop it in the chat. How are you feeling? I mean, we're here for social and emotional learning, so we want to make sure we take a time out to think about what our emotional state is. At least one more person before we go. We got to get a sense of how folks are feeling. in the chat. At ease. Thank you, Kathleen. At ease. Where is at ease? I think that, oh yeah, okay, we got a lot of green family members. Great. All right, I am going to delete your, I'm going to clear off your annotations, so know that that's me. And then I want us to do an exercise together. So let's talk about how we're going to show up today. And you might have been thinking about these as like community agreements, or sometimes called, other folks call them rules of engagement. Today I've termed them how we show up. And I'm going to ask that I put one for us to start. So the one that I put off for us to start is take care of yourself. For me, that means make sure you have your water in hand, make sure your phone is on silent, is on vibrate. For me, if there's a case of emergency, I want to still get it, but I don't want to disrupt folks. If you need to stand at your computer and not have your video on, that's fine too. Whatever it is you need to do so that you can engage. And I'm going to ask that at least 2 other people share a way that they want themselves and other people to show up in this space so that we can have a really strong session around social emotional learning. You can share in the chat, or you can share by unmuting yourself and just using your voice. I have a shy group. This is an opportunity for us to build together what we want our time and space to be like. And you might have guessed from how much I'm already asking folks now that this is meant to be really interactive. So I'm going to keep asking you to chime in, use your voice, use your chat, make your mark. So let's practice. Who can tell me one way in which they want to show up and they want others to show up in this space? All right, I am not opposed to asking people. So I see a Christine Awanta. Could you unmute yourself and share something that you use in your program that helps you think about how you want to engage? You want you and others to engage.
I'm sorry, I just actually get in here. Yeah, what are we talking about? Actually, I just finished my virtual class. I'm so sorry, Miss Femi. Yeah, what is it?
I'm so glad that you're game to do this, even though you just got here. So we're asking, what's a community agreement or a way you want other people to show up and yourself to show up in this space today?
Oh, say again, hold on a second. Oh, you're breaking up a bit. Hold on. Yeah, so we're just actually started. And then, yeah, you want us to, what is it again, Miss Femi?
Just share a way you want to show up in this space that we're here today. The one
To
I
show up
was take care of yourself. Uh-oh, I think maybe I lost her. All right, I am going to pick Diane Madden. Would you unmute yourself and tell us one way you want to show up today? And you want yourself and others to show up today? Miss Diane Madden, are you there?
This is Venus Claybrook. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, I'll just think about just idea sharing and what works for folks in their after school program, and if they work in the school system, and some of the kids that they work with that may, be identified with social emotional learning, or have that as a part of their IEP. What are some ideas that they share with the after school staff on how to deal with, uh, children with social emotional issues in the after school program? How can we engage them? What kind of sensory stuff do they need? Just, just as much idea sharing um, as possible. Just to, because I know, sometimes the same people that work with the students during the school day are not necessarily the folks that work in the after school program. And sometimes the folks in the after school program are just part-time. So they really don't have that relationship with the regular school day. And so they may not know, some of the um, great ways that the teachers engage, with some of the students that may be coming
got
to
it.
that
So
class.
you want folks to bring their best ideas. And not that we need to be experts, but we need to make sure that we're sharing everything that we have in this group so that everyone here can walk away with something new that they didn't have before they entered this room. Is there one more person that can tell us? And I put that in the chat. Bring your best ideas as one of the other ways in which we want to show up. Let's see. Thank you. I see Awanta, I see that you got disconnected, and it's okay. I see an Elaine Howard. Is there one way that you could share you want people to show up? What can we do to make this learning environment the best that we can? Elaine Edwards. Did I say Howard? I'm sorry. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, Mr. Elaine doesn't have it. All right, someone in the chat at least. This is your space. This is an opportunity for you to co-create it. We can do this together, but I also need your help. Thank you, Dr. Terry Bird. Thank you, sharing resources. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So let's talk about why feelings matter. So we spent just in these couple minutes that we've been together, we spent time talking about like how you feel, right? And why did we do that? Because research tells us that our emotions impact the parts of our brains that are meant for learning. So no matter what your emotion is, it's going to impact your attention, what you remember, how compelled you feel or motivated to do something. It's going to influence your behaviors that come out, and it's eventually going to influence your decisions. And so I wanted to share the first two activities that we did together for a couple of reasons. One of those is that a best practice is that we want to make sure we have an opportunity for people to connect with one another, right? And then the other is to show us, to remind us that our emotions do impact the way in which we're going to set ourselves up for learning. So you had an opportunity to say like, okay, or reflect on, this is how I'm feeling. I'm bringing that into this space. And then to just offer that as a potential way in which you could engage not only young people, but also you might engage adults as a quick check-in of how folks are doing. The other piece is we took some time for us to figure out how we wanted to be in our space together. And that it was no accident that came right after we checked in with our emotions, because how we show up, right? Our emotions are going to affect how we show up. And it's important that we co-create that space together. Let's talk a little bit about what SEL is, right? Some people, there's been a lot of conversation about what it is. We at AIR tend to lean heavily into the definition that's put forth by CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. And they say that SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop all sorts of healthy things, right? And what's important here is those things in blue. It's a process. It's not a one-time thing, and it's a process over a lifetime. So the social emotional skills that a kindergartner is learning is going to be different than the social emotional skills that a fifth grader is learning, and yet they're still in the social emotional learning process. And they're going to be developing knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Sometimes you might hear folks say, oh, they're social emotional competencies, right? And when they're saying competencies, that's a broad way of acknowledging knowledge, skills, and attitudes. One thing that's emerging here recently is that SEL can really help young people and adults address forms of inequity and help us transform some of the systems that haven't been serving young people the best way that we would like. I want to take a minute just to review what are these knowledge, skills, and abilities that people are talking about. Previously, there's been a lot of conversation of are they 21st century skills? Are they soft skills? Are they habits? And so we call them competencies, and we again at AIR lean into these 5. So self-awareness, you're able to understand your own emotions, your thoughts, and your values, and how that influences your behavior. And we practiced that right when we came in. We did a gut check of how are we feeling, and then we thought about, okay, how am I going to show up? Self-management. It's your ability to manage your emotions, your thoughts, and tailor that to the kind of situations that you're in. The same way that we act at home is probably not the exact way that we act when we're at work, right? And we're managing our behavior because we're in different spaces that call for different things for ourselves. And social awareness is your ability to understand the perspectives of others who might not look like you, talk like you, do the same kind of activities that you do. And also really broadly think about when you visit, if you've ever visited another country, being aware of the social customs that you know are different, and then thinking about how you can engage in those authentically. And your relationship skills, this might feel one of the most intuitive, and it's really the ability to establish and maintain connections with others. One of the things I think about as an adult, as I'm thinking about my relationship skills, is also understanding the ebbs and flows of relationships. Sometimes you're tight at one time, and sometimes you're a little bit more distant. And what does that mean in terms of still acknowledging that there's a relationship there? And then responsible decision making, which is your ability to make caring and constructive choices around your behavior and your interactions with others across a wide range of activities. As I mentioned before, one of the things that's really coming out is the way in which SEL can work with equity to really break down some of the gaps that we've seen, particularly over the last year. And so in honor of that, what I did was make the definitions, I put in green the pieces that really speak to equity. Just so you can get a sense of how do SEL and equity connect? All right, that is sort of the foundational piece of what is SEL. I'll pause to see if there's any questions before we start diving into the actual practices for the day. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat. Okay. I don't hear anyone. Okay, let's talk about developmental relationships. This is one strategy that you can use to promote SEL in your programs. The Search Institute actually coined the term developmental relationships, and these are close connections that through which young people really discover their identity. Who am I? They learn how to be agents of their own life. You know, they're, especially in adolescence, they're learning that my parents don't have to make all the decisions. I also can figure out which direction I want to go in. And they learn how to contribute to the world around them. One of the things I really appreciate about the Search Institute is they don't just say developmental relationships and leave you with that definition. They actually break it down into actions that you can take in order to develop developmental relationships. And they use this framework. This is the developmental relationships framework. And in a minute, I'll drop the link in the slide, in the chat box. And they have 5 elements: express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. And one of the things I'd like for you to do is to right now just think about briefly, what's an area that I'm really strong at, right? And then what's an area that I need to grow? And you'll notice that if you say, for example, oh, I'm really good at expressing care, there's some actions that follow around expressing care. Be dependable, listen, believe in me, be warm, encourage, and there's a definition, right? So as you're thinking about what I'm really strong about, think about which of those actions you're doing that make you strong. And similarly, on the flip side, think about some of the actions in your area for growth that you're struggling with. You're trying to figure out what do I do, right? And I say that because I'm going to put you in some breakout rooms. And in that breakout room with your group, what, of course, spend a brief time introducing yourself because you're going to be talking to new folks. But after you introduce yourselves, what I want you to do is think about what is an example that you can share with the group in each of these 5 elements: express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. Before I do that, what I'm going to do is put the link in the chat so that you will be able to take this framework with you. Right? You'll be able to take that framework with you when I do your breakout group. And you'll be in your breakout groups for about 10 minutes. And remember, what I would like you to do is share an example from each of the 5 elements. If you don't have the ability to click on the link, I'm also going to put in the 5 elements here: express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. So hopefully in your group, you'll have at least one person who can click on the link and give you more details if you need it. And then everyone will be able to have that list in the chat box when we go to breakout groups. Okay. Going to show. There we go. And we have, there we go. All right, there you go. Go into breakout room. All right. right. Some people, go ahead and join your breakout rooms so you can get your conversations going. If you need help getting to your breakout room, go ahead and raise your hand and I can help you get there. All right. Oh, okay, Kristen, I see. I will try to see if I can keep you. Thank you for letting us know. Anybody else having trouble? Somebody who is in the main room with me, let me know. I know about Kristen, some other folks, if you are having, could you unmute yourselves and let me know if you need my help getting to a breakout room? If you are, we can certainly have a conversation in this main room with the folks who are left because there's enough of us. But want to be mindful. I'm sure there's enough people in each of the breakout rooms. See people coming back. Somebody.
One room, we got room 2.
Uh-huh. You were in room 2.
We were unsure.
Whether people didn't join. And I see Wanisha, you hopped out too. Were you also in that room that there were folks who hadn't joined?
Yes, I was actually trying to get direction because when you gave direction, I was actually in the restroom. So I'm not sure which one.
Yeah, so we are looking at the Search Institute's developmental relationships framework, and we're sharing best practices about how to express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. The link, I can put the link again in the chat box so you can see it and you'll have it when you go to your breakout room, and that way you all can be able to have a good conversation. I'll put it in.
Okay, I don't see it in the chat.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
There you go. I just put it in there.
And we just click on it and discuss.
Mm-hmm. And then, yep, and then you'll be able to see the framework, and you can have a conversation about what are some ways that I'm doing this. And if both of you are sort of like, I wouldn't say that this is my strength, brainstorm some ways that you could build some strategies you could use with young people in that area.
Okay.
All right, I have a lot of folks who are in the main room. Since maybe you all are having trouble getting to your breakout rooms, I'm happy to have a conversation here, but I do need someone to tell me that you'd like to, you can, and we can kick us off. If you can join us. All right, I'm going to assume that folks here cannot join the breakout room for some reason.
Ms. Vance.
I'm here.
Hi, I was just coming back to, we can't even access the website from that link that you sent. And the other lady that's in the group with me, she's saying she's having a whole lot of internet connection issues. So she can't even open up the website.
So use this as your, I've just put in the chat just the 5 areas: express care, challenge growth, provide support, share power, and expand possibilities. And you can talk about those 5 categories if you can't see the actual the link. So I don't know why the link wouldn't be working for you.
So we just discussed those 5 topics.
Okay. Discuss strategies that you might use to do those things, right? So what is the behavior that I might do with the young people that pushes them to grow? What's a behavior that I might do with young people that helps provide support to them?
Okay.
Yeah. You only have 2 more minutes. I'm going to bring you all back. So you might only get one or two of
what
them.
we can discuss.
Okay. Thank you for coming back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. And one person, probably from room 1 or 2, because I think those are the ones that had a lot of books in them. One person share one relationship strategy that they heard that they think that stood out to them. One relationship strategy. Can be across express care, challenge growth.
This is Terry from Group 4. I had the fortunes to speak with Christine, and she was sharing an example about her students, specifically seniors, that are still working on or needing support around completing certain requirements for senior year. And though the time frame has come and gone, she's still providing that care and support for them to help them to achieve that goal. So that was an example that was shared.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and that's a huge milestone for them, right? So it's a time period that they really do need that extra care and support. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna before I do this, the one thing I want to share is the way in which you could boost the ways in which you're promoting social emotional learning is to actually sit with this Search Institute's developmental relationships framework and do a little bit of what we did, a little bit more of what we did today, which is say, what are my strong points? Make sure you share those with others. Where are my places that I need to grow? And ask others, what do they do, to challenge growth? What ways are they stretching young people, so that then you can incorporate that into your toolbox in the way in which you're working with young people. All right, one thing I wanted to, I did put the link in there. A resource I wanted to share with you is, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't mention we are in a pandemic, right? And so the Search Institute acknowledges that by actually giving out, and I put that in the chat box, the link, giving out ways to really focus on developmental relationships while we're in a pandemic. So what you'll see is, like, underneath each of the 5 elements, there's some like specific strategies about what you could do with young people right now to continue to make sure that they feel connected to you and connected to others. All right, put that link in there. Let's talk about 3 signature practices, okay? Now this is another set of practices that you can think about implementing so that your programs are boosting social emotional learning. So 3 signature practices. One is welcoming rituals, which we did a little bit today, right? When we did an opening, that was an opportunity for us to think about welcoming people to the space, make sure they feel included. Engaging practices, which are sense making, give people an opportunity to sit with what you're sharing with them and play with it and practice it, right? And that's something that we just got through doing, right? I showed you a framework and then I said, you know what, go make, share some best practices around it. See if you can find a place where you're growing and another person is strong, and you can try something out. Transitions and brain breaks. I think, especially now that we're working, so many of us have been working from home for a while, we forget about the need to have some way to turn our brains off and transition to something else, right? And then the last, we haven't gotten to do this yet, but the last signature practice is an optimistic closure. One of the best practices in youth development is to make sure that young people as well as adults have an opportunity to reflect on what they learned and what they're going to do differently as they move forward. And if you were in Broderick's session, he might have mentioned something like this, especially since he has a lot of experience shaping not only learning experiences for adults, but also for young people. What I would like you to do, we're not gonna share with others right now, but what I want you to do is just take a minute and write down at least one example of a signature practice that you already use. So ask yourself, what is a welcoming ritual that I think is amazing that I've used or that I've seen? What's an engaging practice that I've seen that's pretty amazing? And then finally, what's a closure that I've done or experienced that worked really well? I'm going to give you just about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Write something down. All right, I might give you less because I also want you to be able to talk about it. All right. I hope you have those three. I want to share something with you before we go into another opportunity to be able to share what we wrote down with our colleagues. So CASEL has developed a playbook that provides guidance about how to do each of those three practices. And I am going to put the link to that playbook in the chat. Ooh, I see that Christine said a talk move strategy, letting my students express what they think and feel. Great. I love that energy, Christine, and I want you to be able to share that in the breakout room when you get there. I am in the chat box. There's a link to the playbook, and I put it in the chat so that when you get to your breakout rooms, you'll have that link with you. Because what I'd like you to do when you get into your breakout rooms, I'm going to do it randomly, so I'm hoping that you'll get put with different folks so that you have a little bit of an opportunity to network with others. And I want you to think about those three practices and share what you wrote down. Doesn't matter which one it is, just share what you wrote down so that you can make sure you're sharing a best practice. And then as a whole group, I want you to think about, did we actually hit on all three, the welcoming and inclusive activities, engagement strategies, and optimistic closing? And if not, as a group, I want you to hone in
What
on
is
that
it?
missing
I already
strategy.
separated. Okay, then he
I
can
want
load
you
it
to
in
be
the
able
so when we
to
get through, he can stop by there and put them on.
then I want you to be able to brainstorm and think about what is a way in which we could actually use this strategy. All right, any clarifying questions on what we're going to do in our breakout groups before I put you there? Ya están aquí. Estamos en un... I'm sorry, my son is joining. All right, no, it looks like there are no clarifying questions about what we're going to do. I'm going to put you in your breakout room. If you have a problem getting into breakout rooms, just let me know. Send me a personal chat. Just want to make sure that everybody is able to get into something. Okay.
Who are they? Hiya.
Colega.
Hi.
All right, I will give you a notice when it's time to come back. You'll get a broadcast. All right, please join your rooms.
I'm in my room. I'm gonna carry you a
I see quite a few people that are still in the main room. If you are in the main room because you are experiencing tech difficulties, just let me know. If because there's enough of us that if it's difficult for you to join a breakout room, we could certainly have a discussion here. If not, I will just let you all stay here with the knowledge that you're doing something that makes it difficult for you to do both at the same time.
Left, right. Right. Oh. I'll put that chair and block it. You gonna try to move it, don't you? Okay, man. What bad?
Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you had some good discussions. Do I have at least one person who can share one signature practice that they heard that they might use? You're thinking, that sounded kind of neat. I might try that. Or if you didn't get to join, I know there was quite a few who weren't able to join a breakout room. If you wrote something down that you were like, oh, I can't join this breakout room, but I still want to be able to share it, chime in now.
I was going to say one thing that I found very interesting in our discussion was, instead of seeing the duration of us being virtual as something that was impeding us connecting with kids, that some people felt that being virtual helped connect more with our students, because you kind of entered their home, entered their space, and like just having that opportunity found sometimes to be beneficial. And for myself, one of the things that I use to connect with my students is sharing pets, but I don't know. In fact, my cat Tootie was just talking a minute ago, but.
That's a good, that's definitely a good transition and brain break. You know, pets give you like endorphins, those warm fuzzies that you need. So that's good. Anyone else want to share something they heard that really stuck with them before we move on? I think somebody said there's some background noise.
Yeah.
Does it sound like a toddler, or is it more like a truck? It's a toddler.
Yeah, I would like to share, Dr. Vance,
Go for it.
from our group. Actually, I was with Miss Randall, and then we were actually talking about how important it is to actually smile, because in the book it actually says there, one welcoming ritual that we can do is to greet our students and to actually give them a smile. And since we're having this after school, and it's been a long day for the kids, so it's really good to actually give them a smile. Even adults actually would appreciate you giving them smile, and just asking them how they're doing, how's their day going. So that's actually one thing that we got from that one. And if you start with a smile, everything will just follow. That's what we believe with Ms. Randall. Actually, that's what we talked about.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Sometimes we have these structured check-in activities that we're thinking about, we want to bring to a space. But also it's just good to ask folks, how did your day go, right? And like, tell me something that made you smile today at school. And that's an opportunity for you to check in with them and for them to like both reflect on their day at the same time. All right, let's talk about our last set of strategies for bringing in, and I did share that link, bringing in social emotional learning. So developing some intentional activities. So there is a research base around what attributes or features of activities really make them such that young people who engage in them consistently are going to be more likely to develop some of those skills, those knowledge, mindsets and skills knowledge, attitudes, and skills that I shared earlier. And it's those activities that are considered safe. And that's an acronym for sequenced. So activities are sequenced, active, people are moving around, they're hands-on, focused. There's an actual focus on one or two skills, right? And it's explicit that you're able to know what those skills are. When we think about sequenced activities, the best way to think about this is really around scaffolding. Like, what's the first thing that a young person needs to know? And then what's the second thing? And those might be two different time periods in which you interact with them, but you still have been able to sequence the activities so that they're building on one another. You start with the basics and then you get more and more advanced. One of the psychological terms that we think about as we're trying to make activities sequence is this zone of proximal development. And what that really means is that you're at the young person's learning edge. So they know how to do some things, right? Like think about you know, if you're trying to get a kid to play basketball, right? You're not just going to throw them out there, right? You might start with, let's teach you how to dribble in place. And you start with the basic. Well, their learning edge might be dribbling and walking at the same time. And that's their zone of proximal development. They know one thing, but it's a stretch to be able to do another thing. And that's okay. That stretch is actually the sweet spot. That's where they're actually learning and they're feeling challenged. And as the adult in the room, what you're going to be able to do is give them guidance, give them feedback, and do a little bit of an artful dance of like knowing when to step in and when to step back and allow them to figure out what's working and what's not. When we think about something being active, right, it's a little bit different now because we're like, oh, we've been virtual for a long time. So active, we used to say, is like really hands-on, but it can just be an actual experience, and you're giving them opportunities to engage, right? So right now, those materials might end up being a video. It might be annotating on a virtual whiteboard. I don't know if some of you use Jamboard, but thinking about Jamboard or Google Doc. It might mean texting you as a program provider. Whatever it is, it's an opportunity for them to think about new concepts, get engaged in new material, and for you as the adult to be able to help them make connection between what they already know and this new material that you're presenting to them. So again, you're going to be able to give them feedback and ask them some questions to keep their learning going, right? To keep moving their thinking in new directions. And then when we think about focus and explicit, I really think of these things as going hand in hand. So even before you walk into a room with young people, you want to have the answer to this first question down. What do you want young people to know or be able to do? If you're doing lesson plans or activity plans, that purpose should be somewhere at the top where you and anyone else could see it. Like, what do I want them to walk away with? And it's different from the product, right? Like, it's not, I want young people to have a lantern that they can walk away with, right? It might be, especially when we're talking about social emotional learning, I want them to be able to name a role in a group and be able to perform that role, collaborate to perform that role, right? So it's not just, again, it's not just a product because we're thinking about those skills and habits. You can also think about what are they practicing in this activity that's a social emotional skill. And then the last one is this other question is around being explicit. So how does this activity help them learn that skill or concept? One way that it does is if you tell young people what you are actually focusing on. It's not a secret. We don't want it to be a secret, and they learn better when you tell them. So in that example I just shared, if you say, you know what, we're going to do this activity, we're in a group, we're all going to build a lantern. Of course, I want you all to have a working lantern at the end, but the other thing I want you to do is learn to collaborate with one another and figure out your role on the team. Right? That I've told them what they want to do. And then when at the end of the session, we now have an opportunity to talk about that, right? So you've told them, you're really explicit, and you're able to say like, okay, well, how did you do that in this activity? So we want to make sure that we include young people in the learning that we want them to do when we set up our activity. And that's going to get us farther in terms of thinking about social emotional learning. I'm going to pause here to see if there's any clarifying questions, because we're going to stay in a whole group this time, but we're going to do one more activity. You can pop it in the chat. You can get yourself off mute. Okay, I don't see anywhere. We are going to watch a video. It's a 3-minute video. It's of a young man teaching a group of teenagers how to keep a beat in cumbia. And as you're watching this video, I want you to think about the safe features. Which ones is he using? And if he's using them, in what way is he using them? And I'm gonna type them in here. Okay, I'm gonna type them in there so that as we're watching, you have them in the chat, and you can think about them. And let's get you started on the video. And this actually, this video was taken with a camera. Another young person was actually recording while the staff member is trying to teach the others about cumbia. Okay. All right. Can someone tell me if they can see that? Give me a holler, a thumbs up, something. I'm gonna make sure you all can see it. Jessica, can you see that? If you're there. Yes, awesome, thank you. All right, here we go.
I'm gonna teach you guys how to play cumbia. This is gonna help you with rhythm. So first, grab, it doesn't really matter the size of the group, as long as it's 4 or more. So first step is put your hands on the table. Second step, we're gonna start with cumbia. So we're gonna start off with cumbia, 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 cumbia. So we're gonna start off with the rhythm. All right. Second step. Can you please? So once we start with cumbia, 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 one person is gonna start with bunny, 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 while the rest are saying cumbia, cumbia. So it's gonna look something like this. Ready, guys? Cumbia, 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 bunny, 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 bunny. All right. So we're gonna start off with that. So third and final step is once someone says bunny, 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 the person to the right and left will have to say tiki taki, tiki taki. So it's gonna look something like this. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Cumbia, 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 cumbia. Bunny, 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 bunny. Bunny, 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 bunny. So while those two people at the side say tiki taki, tiki taki, other person right here will just say cumbia, cumbia, and then we'll just pass it along. So it should look like this. All right, ready, guys? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Cumbia, 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 cumbia. Bunny, 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 bunny. Bunny, bunny, cumbia. Tiki taki, tiki, tiki taki, tiki taki. All right, ready? Another one. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Cumbia, 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 cumbia. Tiki taki, tiki taki. Cumbia, cumbia. Oh, fuck. All right. And that's how you not do it. All right. It doesn't really matter if you mess up or not. This is just about rhythm. So just take as many tries as you get. All right, guys. Do you think we can get this? All right, ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Cumbia, 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 cumbia. Bunny, 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 bunny. Cumbia, cumbia. Tiki, tiki, taki, tiki, taki, tiki, taki. All right, guys. So that's how you play. Obviously, we did mess up, but that's all right. So yeah, just play with your friends, and yeah, have fun.
Sorry, I double muted myself. Okay, what did you all see in that video where the staff member was able to try to keep something sequenced, active, focused, and explicit? What were some examples of any of those that you saw in the video? Yep, Christine says it was challenging because the sequence needed to follow the steps, right? So he did sequences. He said first you do this thing, and then you do the next thing, right? And he showed them each motion, and you could see that it was a little bit of it was a little bit of challenge for them. One of the things I actually really enjoy about this video is that they didn't get it perfect, right? And that really reflects real life. Like there's going to be some failure in there, and that's okay. The point is to keep practicing and thinking about, you know, where can I shift to make it better. So thank you. That was very sequenced what he was doing. Anybody else? What else did you see? You can hop off mute. You can, of course, we would love to see your face. If you want to come on camera, you can type it in the chat. What else did you see? Anybody? Were you all able to see the video? Oh, great. Requires them to work together. Okay, Tamisha, would you, if you have audio, could you unmute yourself and tell me how that connects to sequence, active, focused, or explicit? What were you connecting that to? Could also put it in the chat if you need to. Which one, them working together, what did that connect to? Did it connect to the activity being sequenced, active, focused, or explicit? Focus and sequence. Thank you. And I also would add active, right? Like they had to, there was no way that they could make this beat without the other person. And so they were in there engaged, using their hands to make sure, making eye contact across the table to try to make sure that the other person was doing what was next, so that they could continue their beat. And I'm hoping this works. So AIR has a suite of tools called the Beyond the Bell tools. And we have a specific tool that's around creating activities that embody these safe characteristics. And I'm going to do my best to actually upload that tool into the chat box so that you will have it and be able to practice with making activities that embody these characteristics. One thing that I'll say that I think is helpful in using this tool is that if you already start with an activity that you know really well, because then what you can do is make minor tweaks to be able to make it have each of these characteristics, as opposed to starting with something that you don't really know all that well, and you're still trying to figure out how do I make sure that I can fit these characteristics into the activity. And where I thought it was, it is not. Okay, so I'll make sure I'll do that in just a little bit when you all are reflecting. I'll hunt it down. This is the opportunity for you all to ask questions. Do you have any questions about SEL broadly? Do you have questions about, especially thinking about the competencies we talked about? Do you have any remaining lingering questions about the activities that we did today, including our 3 practices, which were developing relationships, developing developmental relationships, using those 3 practices, welcoming and inclusive activities. I don't know why I said exclusive. An optimistic closing and engagement strategies. And last but not least, making sure we're offering activities that are safe, sequence, active, focus, and explicit. Any questions around any of those things? Okay, I'm not hearing any questions. You can also put your questions in the chat box if you need to. Oh, maybe there's someone. Nope. Okay. All right, let's do our optimistic closing. Let me hear. All right. I wanted to, as we're closing, just acknowledge this. Like, we know that we are still in a pandemic. People are going to feel the repercussions, even though we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. Young people and also the adults that are working with them are still going to feel the repercussions of this pandemic for a while. And so as you're thinking about social emotional learning moving forward in this particular time period, I just want to offer these things to think about broadly. Before we can get to social emotional, before we can get to academics, we need to get to kids' basic needs, right? And sometimes the emotional piece is that basic need. And so even though you might be in a program where you're thinking, oh, we've got to do these academics, use those check-ins to make sure that emotional piece is there so that you can, again, be able to engage them in learning. Keeping equity at the forefront. We know that the pandemic has showed us ways in which there are huge equity gaps in our society, and make sure that they're in your program, those gaps aren't getting widened or replicated. So keep that in mind. And think about using a double whammy. Make sure your environments are supportive and that you're using activities that are just primed to promote social emotional learning. And we've already talked about those, thinking about those safe features. And then the last one is partner. I'm a big fan of community youth development, which is all that says is like, we are not in this alone, and you shouldn't think or act like you are. So as you're struggling to think about, oh, what can I do? Think about who you can partner with to help meet the need that you're seeing, right? And reach out to them and continue to bring, deepen the relationships that you already have with people and organizations, but also expand to new ones because we're experiencing new kinds of needs. These are some additional SEL resources, which I believe we're going to be able to give you the materials, this PowerPoint, and so you'll have the links to these. They're, a smattering of interesting things. One of the things I would say, the first thing that I would check out if I were you would be the SEL videos. They give just quick snippets of live examples of using some SEL principles that we talked about today. And then, of course, we want to be able to model this best practice of having a final reflection. So what is an aha moment you had today or something you learned from today's session? And while you all are thinking about that, I would say you can put it in the chat. You can, of course, as always, come off mute. I'd love to see your face and share with the group. And I'm going to make sure I can find that tool to give to you all. Anyone that would like to share? We only have 2 minutes. So, you know, just 1 or 2 people that could share an aha moment that they had today. Something they're going to walk away with. One thing. I know I have a friend somewhere in this room that really wants to share. All right, I think the Beyond the Bill tool, oh no, that did not go to everyone. Let me do it one more time. The Beyond the Bill toolkit is on your way. Not one person? There you go. All right, everyone. Okay, you all are an extremely quiet group. I'm not really sure why, but I'm really hoping that the silence does not mean that you didn't learn anything during this time. I'm hoping that you at least got one thing that you're able to use as you're looking forward to thinking about how can I infuse social and emotional learning into the program. Oh, thank you, Miriam. I'm glad that you were able to join to say something that she's appreciative of the resources and will be able to share them with other folks. If you have any questions about any of them as you are diving into them, please feel free to reach out to me. I just put my contact information into the chat, and I'd love to hear from any and all of you in the future. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.